Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with the Pricing Lady. I'm Janine Liston, your hostess. This show is all about helping you, small business owners, startups, entrepreneurs, build the right pricing strategies so you can charge your customers for the value you deliver with more confidence and build sustainably profitable businesses. Welcome, everyone, to the show. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Today's topic is all about the fact that words matter when it comes to your pricing. This is something I cannot emphasize enough, and I'm really excited to bring this topic to you today. It's actually quite funny how this came to me. I was wandering around in town a few weeks ago when the shops were still opening, marveling at all the sales that were going on. And I came across two stores who had very different approaches to actually marketing the sale that they were having. Now, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but it gave me the idea for the show because the words they used actually made a bigger difference and told me something about who they were trying to attract simply by the words they were using, not even necessarily by the prices themselves. So let's take a step backwards and take a look at why words mean so much in the context of pricing. Now, there's two different aspects actually that impact this topic. What am I trying to say here? There are two areas in which your words make a difference. One is internal to your business. So I think we've heard a lot about mindset and things like that, but even the words that you use to describe your prices influence your behavior and therefore later on also your customers' behavior. And then there's also a whole other side of it, which is the external, how the words impact your customers or even what their competition is doing. So let's first take a look at an example of how words internally matter in your business, okay? So here's a really great example, and I hear this from time to time, and I'm going to call out very lovingly to all you freelancers out there because this is a space where I hear this a lot or see this a lot. And what happens is when you refer to your prices as costs, you treat them differently than when you refer to them as an investment. So how did I come across this most recently? Well, I had a client, actually it was last year, the last time I came across this. I had a client and he sent me example of his offers. And on his offer, it said, cost offer for blah, blah, blah client. And I had to shake my head to see if I was seeing things. I couldn't actually believe that on the offer to his client, he actually called this document the cost offer. So first of all, he saw what he was charging his clients as costs. And yes, okay, they are for his client, they are costs, but actually what we want to do is we want to have them perceive the prices as an investment in their business. So in his case, it was a business-to-business offer. We want people to see purchasing something with us as an investment, not just as a cost. When it's just a cost, it's just something you have to bear, pull your wallet out, pay it, and there may not actually be any value in it. When we see something as an investment, we're looking forward and we're trying to understand what the value is. That's why it's so important that your customers and you perceive your prices as an investment and not a cost. So we should never refer to the prices in our business as a cost for that reason, because we want to set the example for how our customers are going to perceive our prices as a price, as an investment, as opposed to simply just a cost that they have to endure or bear, right? So this is the first example of how the words we use can really influence pricing. When you see your prices as simply costs that customers bear, then you're going to feel less confident about what you charge. When people ask you what you charge, you might feel a little bit guilty or shy about stating it, and that's because you're seeing it as just something they have to take and live with, as opposed to seeing it as an investment that they're making in themselves or their business or in some aspect of their life. At the same time, it has to do with how customers perceive it. So if you're stating it in the right way and calling it the right things, then your customers will as well, or at least are more likely to, and you're reinforcing that message yourself by using the right information. Now, there's lots of other areas internal to your business where words matter in pricing. So I can think back to when I was in the corporate world, and quite often in the sales teams, they always had this perception, and I'm going to come back to why I can say that with confidence, this perception that the thing that was most important to our customers was the price. And they used to say things like, all customer care about is the price. That's all they care about, Janine. They don't care about anything else. I used to hear this a lot. And what happened is we would do customer surveys and we would have them rate different performance criteria, one of which was pricing, but so were things like customer service and quality of the products and a whole list of about 15 different things. And what we usually found was that price was typically in the top 10. I'm not sure I ever ran into a case where it was the number one priority, although I'm sure it does become number one in some instances, and it was rarely within the top 5. That meant that the sales team had a perception of what customers were thinking or saying that wasn't actually reality. So those words that they were using, Janine, the customer only cares about the price, was actually influencing what they were doing and how they were behaving with customers, which was then influencing what customers perceived as a fair price from us. Very interesting. So again, how you perceive your own prices and things even that maybe you're not saying it loud, maybe it's just circling around in your head, that can also have an influence. Now let's switch gears here and talk about the external impact of pricing. Now I've alluded to that in some cases here by showing how the internal affects the external, but let's just talk about your external messaging and how that can impact people when they come to purchasing what you have to offer. Now, as I said earlier at the beginning here, I was walking around, and here in Switzerland, we tend to have sales twice a year. Once just after Christmas and once just before the beginning of summer. So usually July-ish time. And I was walking around in January looking at what the stores had on offer. And I walked up down the street and there were these 2 shops. Now they were selling slightly different things, but they were retail shops. And both of them were having some sort of sale. What I found, what really struck me about these 2 shops was they were both offering fairly deep discounts on their goods. But one, the signs in the window said sparen, which in German or in English, that's the German word for save. So it was sparen, sparen, save, 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 save all over the place. The window was just plastered with save, save, save. And in the storefront next to it, the word was profitieren, which is to profit from. So it's profitieren, profitieren, profitieren. Now, what's really interesting about this, I stood there in the middle of the street thinking about this for a moment, was that when you're saying to someone, save, 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 you're actually calling a very specific kind of client, the bargain hunter, the person who's looking to get a deal, and generally people who are looking not only to get a deal, but who are okay with giving up quality in exchange for that. However, when you use the word profitieren or to profit some, you're saying you're going to get a discount, you're going to profit from this, so you're going to gain something from this exchange. And it actually calls to a very different kind of shopper. The one who's less likely to give up the quality of what they're getting, even if they're going to pay less for it. And I thought this was super striking and really very interesting and telling. And this is a great example of how even though they were doing more or less the same thing, the words that they chose actually was calling out to and trying to bring in a very specific demographic when it comes to customers. What does this example really tell us is that the words you use do matter. So when you put words around or near your pricing, when you have a conversation with customers and you talk to them about discounts or you talk to them about the value and the price that you have, the words that you choose make a difference. Let me give you a couple of other quick examples here. So when you are going to deliver a price, whether it's in written form or spoken form, one thing that you can actually do is you can use words, diminutive words. So words like tiny, a bit, small. If you get those words into the sentences before that, it actually helps to anchor your price to something that is small. So it makes it appear smaller in the mind of the client. So that's one way that you can have an influence, that your words may influence it. Now, if you use words like big, large, huge, humongous, enormous, then it has the opposite effect. Right? So when you put that next to your price, it's automatically going to make people think that your prices are higher. So, these are things that you want to actually think about. What's the point of this conversation that I'm having with you? The point is that you need to be more deliberate and check what words you're using when it comes to your prices. How are you presenting them? What words are around them? What words do you use with them? Because that can have as much impact on people's perception of the price, who is going to be interested in what you have to offer, people's willingness to pay, how they perceive the value. It has an influence on all of those things. So not only do you need to think about what the price is itself, but also think about what words you use and how you're going to present that price. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was what I wanted to share with you today. Your words truly do matter when it comes to pricing. And in my 20 plus years of experience when it comes to pricing and marketing and communication, is that the more you think about and consider the words that you use, the better your message is going to be, and the more on target and aligned it's going to be with your pricing. And then, of course, if your pricing is aligned with your brand, you've got a double whammy in there. One other thing before we go today. So next week, I am kicking off the 5 Steps to Pricing Success webinar. So I encourage you to come on over and join me for this webinar. It's an introductory webinar for those of you who are looking to understand a bit more about pricing. I do this live and I do take questions in this webinar. So I hope that you'll head on over to JanineListon.com, 5 Steps to Pricing Success, and join me for this webinar. I will also put the link to this in the chat below or in the comments below. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you great success. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Have a wonderful week. Next week on the show, we have a guest. I'll be posting that soon, so you'll see. And we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome and pricing. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic conversation, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. And as always, enjoy pricing.